Welcome to everyone joining us this evening for this special program on community housing that I'm very proud to be sponsoring with the Cook County Land Bank Authority. Most people want to know what is my interest in housing and land bank and what have you. But let me just say that housing is foundational. And I know that, in our communities, especially on the west side and the south side of Chicago, but even in Chicago as well, now that the rains have come and the weeds have grown up, now you've noticed that there are vacant properties around you. So I thought that we might have a conversation on how the land bank is trying to help communities across Cook County to alleviate some of these problems. And I'm hopeful that we have an audience online with us today that's interested in learning the process and avail yourself to the information that Rob is going to share. Now, our communities continue to grapple with these vacant and foreclosed housing issues and certainly housing challenges in general. Rob is the executive director of the Cook County Land Bank. I believe, Rob, you're the first executive director of the Cook County Land Bank. Is that correct?
I am the second. So the first lasted for a year. Okay. I lasted for 6.
Okay, well, so then you have a lot of experience. Rob's going to talk about the land bank's efforts to promote redevelopment and the reuse of vacant, abandoned, foreclosed, or tax delinquent properties. Now, he's also going to discuss the efforts that the land bank is making to stabilize communities and to stimulate residential, commercial, and industrial development. But let me tell you a little bit about Rob before he begins. He has an impressive background. He's been dubbed, quote unquote, the change maker by Chicago Splash magazine for his leadership at the land bank, where he works to reclaim distressed properties, clean them up, make them desirable for new buyers. He has an extensive background in finance, real estate, and community development. He was appointed to the Fannie Mae Affordable Housing Advisory Council, and he serves on the local advisory committee of several financial institutions, including Citibank, IFF, and Fifth Third Bank. He's received numerous awards, including the Friends of the Neighborhood Awards, the NHS Community Impact Award, Dearborn Realist President's Award, and the Chicago Defender Men of Excellence. He has an MBA from Cornell University and a BBA from St. Edward's University. He lives in the south suburbs of Chicago with his wife and daughter. Welcome to you, Rob. And again, thank you so much for making yourself available to speak to us today. So with that, on with the show. It's yours.
All righty. So I got some weird lighting here in my office. So it looks like I got stripes because I got the blinds and I need to try and get them straightened out. So if you can't see me, I can get up and get these blinds if that makes it easier for you to see.
We see you just fine. I know I do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And so before I start, I do want to say and recognize the clerk for the work that she has done in regards to this field. Well before the land bank was formed, she actually, when she was a state representative, really tried to run legislation that would lend to the creation of land banks. And so it was a bit before its time and it wasn't able to get passed, but it did pave the path for us to be able to form the land bank later. And so sometimes it takes that forward vision and someone pushing that envelope to allow for the creation of what we know needs to come behind it. So I thank you because, the land bank stands on your shoulders.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome. So as the clerk said, I'm going to give you all a program overview of the land bank. And this is not designed to answer all questions. It's really designed to give you a primer on what the land bank, who the land bank is, and then give you ways in which you're able to work with us to further find ways for collaboration, if you will. So with that, let me start by going over, the challenges that are facing us and the challenges that were facing us when we first formed the land bank and why this was necessary, and what we saw in terms of the atmosphere and why it's still necessary today to have a land bank. So when we started the land bank was started in 2013, but the work to begin the land bank really started in 2009. And this was on the heels of the financial crisis. We had record foreclosures that had occurred in the county, both city of Chicago and in suburban Cook. And it really overran the court systems. And it really was a game changer for so many neighborhoods that hadn't previously felt the effects of disinvestment and foreclosures. And it really demanded a system to deal with it, right? Because this was beyond just people losing houses. This was the loss of jobs, this is the unemployment. And then we had a lot of cash buyers that were coming in to take advantage. And so we really had a moment here where we would lose control of a lot of valuable housing stock at a time we were most vulnerable. So that was a challenge that faced us. And the solution that came out was the creation of a land bank. So what is a land bank? A land bank is a public authority or a nonprofit. In this case, we're a public authority. We're a part of Cook County. So we sit under the office of the president, President Tony Perkwinkle. And we were created to efficiently acquire, hold, manage, develop, and dispose vacant and abandoned properties. So as a group, day in and day out, we're trying to figure out how do we acquire vacant and abandoned properties? How do we clear title? How do we make it so that groups, homeowners, developers, investors, nonprofit organizations are able to take advantage of the work we do so that they can rehab the properties throughout the county? And as a solution, we do it countywide so that we're not working in a silo, but we're really thinking about the county as a region. And we have these tools to bear that make us able to work everywhere. So some municipalities have great resources, right? City of Chicago, right? Some municipalities have volunteer staff and they need as much help as they can in working on these issues. The good thing about the land bank is we have a structure that we can work with the large cities, we can work with the small villages and everybody in between, and how to help to manage the acquisition and responsible disposition of these properties. So the mission to reduce and return vacant land and abandoned buildings back to reliable and sustainable community assets. The word here is sustainable, right? It's not enough that the building is turned over to someone and that they do something with it, but that use that they are going to take on is something that can be sustained and something that can be there in the long term. So when we're looking at who we're going to sell a property to, we really are also looking at your sustainability plan. What is it that you're going to do so that this property isn't back off the tax rolls 3 years from now? What are you going to do to ensure that this property will have a long-term hold or a long-term buyer? So that's really a key part of that mission statement. When you think about the roles of the land bank, traditionally around the country, this is what land banks look at. This is what land banks do, right? Of these roles here, what I have in red are the two things that our land bank does not do. So we don't finance properties, right? We're not a financier, okay? And we a property owner and manager, we don't own properties then to rent out. So we're not a landlord, and the properties that we don't have them for rental. So what we're doing is we're acquiring properties, we're clearing title, and then we're looking to sell to all the different groups that are out there that want to do that work. So that the goal here is not for us to hold property and somehow make money on the rental piece. It is really to be a facilitator, to acquire the property and then to be able to pass it on at below market prices to the groups that we want to work with, so they can go in and make the investment and they can own the properties and then they reap the benefits from that. So here are the different ways that we acquire properties. We acquire properties through donations. We have private donations. A lot of families that are dealing with estate planning issues, and this is something that the clerk and I worked on as she was a recorder of deeds, is there are families that need the estate planning where the matriarch or the patriarch of the family dies, the rest of the family is not able to take care of that property, and they're sort of stuck. Well, with the land bank, you're able to donate this property to the land bank. It gets rid of the liability for the family, especially if they don't have the resources to take care of it. But more importantly, that property isn't lost. It doesn't go vacant and abandoned, and it doesn't sit there for years and years when people try to figure out what can happen. And so we've been a great resource for those families that want to be able to responsibly dispose of those properties. Abandonment and forfeiture, those are court processes that we go through. We know that something's abandoned and hasn't been used in a number of years. Then there's a legal process we go through to acquire those buildings. Bank REO stands for real estate owned. This is the bank's nomenclature for their foreclosed properties. So they have a portfolio of these properties that they're foreclosed on, and now these properties are available. We're able to work with the banks to get those properties and make them available to you all. The scavenger sale is our largest channel. This is the largest way that we collect properties. These are properties that have been tax delinquent for at least 3 years or more. The average tax delinquency for the properties that we acquire is 11 years. So these are properties that have been vacant for a long time. And we're able to go into the tax sale. We're able to break that cycle by being able to extinguish those back tax liens and clear title and make that available to buyers. So many times what happens is there's a property that's perfectly located and situated, but you go in and you say, well, it's got $500,000 worth of back taxes, $200,000 worth of back taxes. Well, you have to clear that out plus rehab it in order to be able to use it. For most people, the finances, the economics just don't work. So what we're doing is being able to break that cycle with the work that we do. And then the final way that we're able to acquire properties is a deed in lieu. And it's a way that we are able to get properties donated to us that have tax delinquent issues. So there's a legal process to do that. And I share this with you just to say that what we're doing is we're actively looking for all the different ways that we can acquire these properties so that we can make these properties available to you in the programs that we have. So how do we work with you, right? So there's direct sales to homeowners. We have a program called the Home Buyer Direct, where you as an owner occupant can buy a house from the land bank. You can fix it up yourself, or you can hire a contractor to fix it up for you. And this is going to be your primary residence. So you're purchasing it at below market prices. You're able to customize it and rehab it and living it and create that value. And now you've created the sweat equity for the house that you live in. To date, we have sold over 200 properties through this channel, through this method of going directly to homeowners, okay? Every year, we've given away a house for Christmas. And actually the second house that we gave away was in the village of Maywood. And so this is a way of drawing attention to this program, also extolling the virtues of home ownership as a wealth builder. And so this is something that we're very proud of this program. The other thing that we do is that we make these properties available for developers. So if you are a developer, we say the community developers, some people may say flippers or rehabbers, anyone that is in the business of acquiring properties, fixing them up and selling them to people, we want to work with you. And so we have a full inventory of residential properties, multifamily properties, industrial, commercial properties available for you to do just that. And then finally, we have vacant land in our portfolio. So these are vacant lots within the city, in the suburban areas. These could be old farms, this could be partial farms, and this land can be repurposed for a number of things. So we've had people come in to do urban farms, do community solar projects where they want to take this land to be able to have solar arrays to be able to generate electricity. And of course, that's in accordance with the local ordinances that allow for that. Stormwater management, where these properties are being used to help to manage some of the runoff of properties, or gardens by different nonprofit agencies that do community gardens or urban agriculture. So those are the different ways in which this program has been used. And so that's what the land bank is in a nutshell. In terms of working with the land bank, it really does start with going to our website. Our website is chock full of information, including access to a map of all of our inventory and how to do that. It's actually pretty straightforward. Again, I'll put this in the chat so you'll have it, but I'm gonna leave it on the screen here for a while so you can take down the website. When you go to the website, there's a link that says apply/buy property. You follow that and it will take you to a map of the county. There'll be different colored dots on that screen. And green dots are vacant land, orange dots are houses, purple is industrial, red is commercial. You can search this map, you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can filter for a neighborhood, you can filter by municipality to find a property that you may be interested in. The key takeaways, if you see a property that you're interested in, apply for that property. The application doesn't obligate you to buy the property. It does not cost you anything to apply. If it's the first time applying, you have to create a profile, username and password, but applying for that property starts the process. You will receive an email from staff and they will give you an email with your next steps. So rather than me try to go through all of the steps, find a property, put the application in, get the email from staff, and it will guide you to what your next step is gonna be. So I'll stop there because I find answering questions during this time is probably the best use of my time. And if there's something I need to cover in more detail, I'll go over that. But I'd like to start there, Clerk Yarbrough, and
Yes.
take some questions.
Okay, well, why don't we go right into our questions. We have a couple of questions in the chat already. The question from Ramona Sanders is, she organized a nonprofit with the goal of opening a domestic violence shelter. Can a nonprofit acquire one of these properties? And if so, is there a mentorship program that will assist her?
So the mentorship program, I'm not aware of. So that's, we don't have a mentorship program within the land bank. However, my staff is very helpful in terms of helping you to acquire the properties. When you go to our website, what you'll find is every property has a price listed. So there's no mystery in terms of what the property is going to cost, right? Now, the trick here is that the cost of the property is only half of the battle, right? So we have properties that are $10,000, $15,000, but when you go inside, you see that there's extensive damage. These properties have been sitting vacant, there's water damage, there may be mold damage, there may be a lot of rehab to be done. So you may pay $15,000 for a property, but you may spend $80,000 on the rehab. So what we want you to do, you can't buy anything sight unseen. You have to see it. And we want you not only to go in, but take a professional with you. Now, in terms of a mentorship, there are different resources around the area that can help you in terms of being able to find good contractors. There's groups like Black Contractors United, there's HACIA, there's BCO, which is the Black Contractors, Owners, and Executives. There are different groups out here that you can access that can help you find good contractors and connect with to be able to do that. But a formal mentorship program, we don't have that per se. If you're a nonprofit, another group that's a great resource and does a lot of work around real estate consulting is the IFF. And again, I don't think the services cost you money. I think this is a part of the project as they walk through it. So that's another resource to look at in terms of being able to help you mentor around a space that you need and being able to use that space. And in terms of nonprofits, we absolutely sell to nonprofits. And we've had nonprofits use our properties for group homes and for other sort of programs. So a domestic violence shelter or some office around that, absolutely, you can use the properties. Everything you buy, I will say, has to be in accordance with the local ordinance. So even if I sell you the property, if the local ordinance doesn't allow for that use, then you're gonna have to either appeal to the municipality for a special use for that property, or that property, you have to look for another property, because you do have to work in the confines of the ordinances of the town that you buy the property in.
So Rob, you used an acronym, and in using acronyms, I know what IFF is, but why don't you tell the folks that are with us who the IFF is?
So they were formerly known as the Illinois Facilities Fund. They've actually officially changed their name to IFF because now they're in like 10 states. So they're no longer serving just Illinois, but the Illinois Facilities Fund is what it stood for. And they were a fund they were created to fund facilities for nonprofits in the state of Illinois, so IFF.
Okay. All right, Michelle is asked, she said that she was told that only 3 land acquisition specialists, there's only 3 to handle the large inventory properties under jurisdiction.
Yes.
Are you able to provide the quality of services needed for follow-up? And is there an issue? If there's an issue, we are not able to talk directly to a live individual.
Okay, so maybe she reached out to us during COVID. During COVID was challenging for all of us because we were working remotely and we weren't able to take phone calls. We're in the office now. The county is opened up. It opened up Monday, in fact. And so we now are in office. You call our number. I had it on the screen. I'll put it back up. You're able to talk to a live person and then be directed to whoever you need to speak with. Now, our acquisition specialist, we have 3. You're correct. We have one that handles the west side, one that handles the south side of Chicago, one that handles the southern suburbs. What happens is the way we're able to manage this is through the use of our application system that lets us funnel to the right person. And then, from there, for the commercial properties, we also use commercial brokers. So if you're trying to buy a commercial property, you're also dealing with our commercial broker network that can help show you the property and walk you through the process on the commercial side. On a residential side, a lot of it is self-help. So what happens is when you want to see a house, what we do is we give you the access code to the house so you're able to go in 24/7 and go into the house for yourself, tour for yourself. You have access to the house, so you have the freedom to do that. We give you a deadline by which your application is due. That application gets in and is processed. If you have any questions, you call our number. You'll get Crystal Campos, who was our intake admin. She will direct you to the person that you need to speak with. If they're in the field, she's going to put you into their voicemail. They're going to return that call within 24 hours, okay? Because they're out in the field looking at properties and stuff all the time. So you will speak with someone. A quicker response is email. All of our emails are on the website. If you go to our website and you go to the staff page, you'll see all of the names listed with all of our email addresses. And you can also email us directly, and that will get a quicker response because oftentimes people are still out of the office. It's much easier to answer the email than the phone call. But if you do call our general number, you will get someone and get directed to them.
Okay, Diane Williams wants to know how long it could take a homeowner from first application to closing on a property. I guess it's going to depend, right? That's a depends.
It's going to depend. I can give some guidelines. So from the first application, if you go to our website, what you'll notice on the properties is that we give you a deadline by which your application is due, and we also give you an award date, okay? So if you look now, most of the applications are due, what's today, the 22nd? Most applications are due on the 24th for the properties that were listed for this month. Due on the 24th, and we'll have an answer to you by July 1st, okay? So from that, if you would get that application on that time frame, we make a decision and you're the person that's awarded July 1st. Typically, it's a week turnaround for us to get you the term sheet. However quickly you can turn that term sheet around, sign the term sheet that you agree to the price and the terms, and your earnest money, right, which is typically $500 or $1,000. We receive that, you then go under contract, purchase sale agreement. The purchase sale agreement, we give you 90 days to close. Typically, people are closing in 30 to 45 days. So for the first time that you put an application in to the time you close, it can be anywhere from 60 to 90 days.
Okay, all right. Alex is asking, why is there a 2-step process to make an offer? And then a follow-up, he's a broker, and he said the current process is for a property he has multiple showings. He has to physically submit an application for each individual to gain access. This process is tedious and time-consuming. Can there be a simpler process in place for real estate brokers?
Yeah. So there is. So one thing is that on an application, you can actually submit up to 5 pins on one application. Okay. And so you can do that, and that will help to cut some of that down. And if you call into our staff, we can show you how to do that. The second thing is for brokers, if you want to see the property first and then bring your clients when you know this is something they're interested in, you can fill out the application for yourself as a broker to see it. And then if you then want to show it to a client because you think this is something that they're interested in, you can then have them fill out an application. So instead of filling out one application for each client that you're trying to do, you can fill out the application for yourself. And if you look at 5 houses and then this is the one house that you want to show, then have that client do that one application for that. So then that way, you're not having to fill out 5 applications for the clients, 5 applications for you, and doubling the work. So that's already built into our process.
That makes sense.
If you have any questions, you can call and we can walk you through how to do that. But the other thing is that you can absolutely apply for the initial application, I will say, which is to see the house. You can apply for 5 properties on one application, and it also streamlines the process. Now for your offer application, you have to do 1 per property. So why is there a 2-step process? The first application tells us that you're interested in the property. We also have an indemnity agreement that you sign because this is an as-is property. It protects the county because you're walking into a house that could potentially have some hazardous conditions. We want you to understand that. So the first application is to express interest. After that process, you're not obligated to anything. You can look at the house and decide, I don't want this house, and you're done. The second process is the offer. I've looked at the house, I've gotten access to the house, I want the house. Now you put in the application process, that's when you're loading up your proof of funds, your scope of work, your budget, right? Your marketing plan, all that stuff goes into your offer application. It's a 2-step process so that you're able to screen for a lot of properties up front, but only apply for the ones that you're interested in. And again, by putting 5 properties on one application, that should help you with the screening process to make that more streamlined.
Okay, thank you for that. Northwest Housing Partnership has worked with the land bank before, and we just finished a 5-year contract with IFF. Is there a way for me, this is Mario asking, is there a way for me, a real estate broker on behalf of Robin Sandys, can sign up to make offers, or would she have to do it? Also, does the buyer have to, the buyer have to prove that the final buyer will occupy the property?
Okay.
Limits, etc.
Right. Yeah. So this is a great question. So yes, you as a broker can sign up to see the property and gain access to it. But we absolutely need the group that's going to take title to the property has to be the one to put the application in. And here's why. Right now, for the work that we're doing, we have very specific requirements of the buyer coming in. Now, we don't have income requirements, right? And we don't have occupancy requirements. We have 2 things that we require. One, we require that the property be rehabbed within typically a year of buying it. We want the buyer to acknowledge they understand that, not their representative, not their attorney. We want the buyer to say, I know that I have to get this property done within a year, because that same restriction says that we have the right to take that property back. We want to make sure that we're talking directly to the buyer, that they understand that obligation, and that they're signing up for that. That's something that they're on the hook for. The second thing is that we are still an agency of the county. We have to know our customer. I can't work through a broker. I need to know who I'm working with. I can't sell to a land trust. I can't sell to anybody who I can't see the principles that I'm doing business with. This is very important. As a county agency, we cannot be aiding and abetting criminal activity. We cannot be aiding and abetting terrorism. We've got to know who we're actually buying with. You can buy through an LLC, but I've got to be able to see who the owners of the LLC are, right? So it's very important that we get a chance to work directly with the buyer and have the interface. So as a broker, you can set things up, but as we go into a contract, we absolutely have to be in contact with the buyer. And if the buyer refuses to do that, we have to then pass, because that is something that's very critical to the county operations, that we know who we're doing business with.
Okay, Michelle currently has 3 properties. They're at the last step, which is to have the final paperwork to be signed off by the director. This process has taken 50 days so far, and my buyers are getting antsy and thinking they're not going to receive the property. What's the next step? How much longer will the final process take for my clients to occupy the properties?
Okay, so if you have been awarded the properties, so you've gotten the award. Now, I would say, as I was telling Clerk Yarbrough, I'm in my last week of being the executive director. As you can imagine, there's been a lot of activity as I'm wrapping up leaving, and as my successor was just named today in terms of who will be taking over, but she won't start until August. Admittedly, there has been a lot of fits and starts in our pipeline as we've been trying to manage through and get things approved, but also transitioning for me to leave out the office. So there has been a bit of a delay in the paperwork. In a normal sense, that process happens pretty quickly. But what's happening right now is that in this transition, there is a little bit of a delay. So I do apologize for that. I just approved about 10 or 12 deals today. So maybe your deal was one of those deals that came through, and there's more in the pipeline for me to get through while I'm still here in the office. So we're working through that process. Part of the process that we have to work through is our due diligence process. We don't do the screening up front. So when you're filling out your application, you'll notice there are no credit checks, no criminal checks, none of those checks that happen. On the back end, we do what's called a name and judgment search, right? To make sure that there's other liens that you have. We do make sure that there's no outstanding child support, there's no outstanding tickets and all those sort of things. So the back end process that happens from a due diligence standpoint, we don't do up front. That adds to some of the time. The other piece of it is just my capacity, because everything does funnel to me to sign. I'm the director. And so there's only so much that I'm doing in addition to all the other stuff that I'm doing. So be patient with us. If there's a question, reach out to your acquisition specialist. But if you've gotten an award letter that says you've been awarded, you've gotten a term sheet, you got that back to us, but it's some time to get that term sheet signed or to get that PSA out. The delay is on our end, not yours. And if you want the property, be patient with us. It's coming. And then as we go through this leadership transition and my successor comes on place, you'll see that process start to smooth out as we are able to get that going again.
Okay. Mario had a follow-up question about the buyer they sell to. Are there any requirements for the buyer?
No, so there's no requirements of the buyer. We would prefer that you sell, if you're rehabbing a single family home, we want you to sell to a homeowner as opposed to renting. So we do have provisions that make the sell to a homeowner a more attractive offer for you, if you will. But in terms of who you're selling to, there are no income requirements to the person you sell to, unless we specifically acquire something through the court system that previously already had an affordability covenant. Otherwise, there is no covenant. If there's an affordability covenant, we disclose that before or during while we're selling it. So there's no surprise that that's the covenant that's on there, and you can make an informed decision about whether or not you want to deal with that covenant. But yeah, we don't restrict that. The sale has to be to a person that lives in Cook County, outside of Cook County, any of that stuff. What we do hope to see, though, is that we want the sale to be to a homeowner for a single family home, and we don't want to see it just switch hands between renter to renter to investor to investor. However, we don't have a restriction to stop that from happening. What we are hoping to do as we're screening for, we have people who are civically minded, who want to rehab and want to reinvest in their neighborhoods. So they want to sell to a homeowner. So we believe much more in the carrot versus the stick approach to encouraging that.
Sure. Okay. Ramona is saying there's a property that's been vacant for almost 15 years. I looked on the Land Trust website and it's not listed. Can someone provide an address and the Land Trust research to see if the property can be listed on the Land Trust?
Right. So I know she means land bank. We get that all the time because there's an organization that's the Land Trust.
I was trying to figure it out.
Right, but I'm assuming she means land bank. So when I talk about the different ways that we acquire properties, there may be properties that are very vacant, but there may be we may be unable to pursue them for a number of reasons. But the research to be done, you can actually do the first part of the research for yourself. So this is going to be a plug for the county tax portal. Yeah. And we can put that in the chat. If someone can put that in the chat from your staff, Clerk Yarbrough, the Cook County PropertyInfo.com. The Cook County PropertyInfo.com, the Cook County tax portal is a one-stop place, is a wonderful resource. All you need is either the address or the PIN number. And at one shot, it will show you who the owner is. It'll give you the last 5 years worth of tax history, the last 5 years worth of appeals history, the last 5 things that were done against the Cook County Recorder of Deeds in terms of what was recorded. And then there's links to each of those different things. You can go there and at a quick shot, you can see who the owner is. You can see if there's any back taxes owed. For properties that are vacant, but the taxes are paid, the land bank has no legal authority to acquire those properties because the taxes are being addressed, right? We don't want an agency that just grabs vacant properties away from people, right? That's not how this works. It works if there's delinquent taxes, then it becomes eligible. But even if the taxes are delinquent, they still have to be listed in the tax sale. So there are properties that are vacant that we are keeping an eye on, but we have to have a legal way to acquire those properties. And this is the challenge that we have, but this is the ongoing thing that we do to make sure that we're working on behalf of the citizens of the county. But you can do this quick research to tell you at least who owns the property, if there are any back taxes that are owed on the property. And it may be that, you reach out to that owner, you write that owner and say, I'm interested in buying this property. If you have a realtor friend, they may be able to do a title search for you and help you to locate that person and make them an offer. And a lot of times, some of the best deals out there are unsolicited offers. Someone has a house, they're not doing much with it. Right now, we don't have the legal authority just to go and offer to buy vacant houses just out of our account. That's not how the land bank is set up. But you as a private citizen can do that. Say, hey, your house is listed. I'd like to buy it from you for $50,000. If they agree to it, do your research, make sure the house doesn't have the back taxes, that whole thing, you may be able to acquire it. At a minimum, we are aware of what's vacant. We have a list that we're keeping of what's vacant so that when things come in the tax sale, we know this is something we should acquire. But this is one of the challenges that we face in the law, is that it does limit the extent that we can go after vacant properties. We have to do so in a legal, lawful manner so that we're not kicking people out of their houses, but we're going after those vacant properties.
Okay, Don Robinson wants to know when is the next scavenger sale. There's a property that he wants to acquire that's there.
So the person that determines the scavenger sale is the treasurer. So Maria Pappas, Cook County Treasurer, determines the scavenger sale. At the start of COVID, she indefinitely suspended the scavenger sale. And to my knowledge, Clerk Yarbrough, she's not announced when she's doing that.
No.
So your guess is as good as mine in terms of when it's going to happen. I think just given the nature of the economy, it's probably going to be early 2023 before there's another sale. But that's only speculation. But it's up to the treasurer. She makes that determination.
Yeah, and she has not indicated yet when that's going to be. So Michelle wants to know, if properties are being pursued by the land bank, can there be a date that they will be available for purchase?
So as soon as we're able to acquire the property, clear the property out and secure it, then we list it on our website. So our website is absolutely the best resource to see properties that are coming online. So what I say is we are required by policy to list every property that we're going to sell for 30 days. So if you check the website 2 or 3 times a month, you're going to catch every property. We do roll them on at different times to be able to manage it so that our acquisition specialists aren't looking at 100 applications at the end of the month. So it is spread out. So if you look 2 or 3 times a month and do a good search, you'll be able to find new properties as they come on. You'll also see properties disappear as they go under contract. They're taken off of the website. But yeah, you may see properties, and I'll address this. Most municipalities require that we post our sign on properties that we own. Okay, when we acquire a property, when we acquire the tax deed, so we get the tax deed from the clerk's office, we have to then go through point of sale, which typically means some sort of inspection or water certificate from the city. Once that's done and we record that deed, we own the property, but we still have to secure it and we still have to clean it out because many of these properties are junky and they're not fit for people to walk through. Yeah. Put our sign to show you that we own it, but it may not be on our website. So there's a lag there. So keep watching the website for when it will come on. The other thing is that you may see a sign on a property and it's on our website. It then may be under contract. We still own it. So we still have our sign on the building, but it's not on the website. It may be under contract, but not sold yet. So if it's not on our website, it means it's not available either because we haven't put it online or it's been sold. you can simply email us at our email address, info@cookcountylandbank.org, info@cookcountylandbank.org, with the address, and then we can tell you whether it's under contract or whether it is hasn't been brought online yet.
Okay, I have a question from Iris. She gave me this. She said that there's unlicensed realtors that are selling, you know, trying to buy property on the land bank on behalf of people and what have you. Do you have any jurisdiction there? Do you try to make sure that, you know, if a person holds themselves out as a realtor representing somebody, do you do anything with that at all? Because she said that happened. She's in the south suburbs, and she said that happened to one of her neighbors who was trying to do that. And it was some person who had a little bit of knowledge, but they were not licensed at all. She looked them up and she saw they weren't licensed.
So here's what happens. This is part of the conversation that I had with the other broker. We need to deal directly with the buyer. You do not have to have a broker to work with the land bank. So anybody that tells you you must have a broker is not telling you the truth, period. And please spread the word. You're not required to have a broker. If you have a broker, we do not pay brokers for residential properties. Okay, so if someone is a broker on your behalf and they come to the land bank and they show you the land bank's website, remember, I'm not dealing with that broker at all for you to buy that property. So we don't pay that broker. Now, if you want to pay the broker a finder's fee, that's between you and the broker, right? Whatever your arrangement is, we're not going to pay it. And I'm saying it's not necessary for the work that's being done. It's not necessary to have a broker in order to work with the land bank to do that. Here's the exception. For our home buyer direct houses, where this is going to be your primary residence, you can work with a broker. We require that broker to be licensed to represent you. That person is not licensed, they cannot represent you, okay? Right, so then Avis and Young, commercial properties, we do have brokers. We had an RFQ to select commercial brokers for, so initially I was talking about residential. You don't have to have a broker for residential, except for the home buyer direct houses. For all commercial properties, we have brokers on every commercial property. Avis and Young is a commercial broker for us. We have CBRE, we have Draper and Kramer, we have ARE. So there's like 10 firms that we work with that represent us on the commercial side. Their signs are posted on the property. Their contact information is listed, and they're able to give you information on how to submit your application. They actually help you gain access to the property. They're our broker, right? They're the broker on behalf of the land bank, okay? If you have a broker that's working with you, then those brokers will split the commission that we pay to our broker to work with you. So commercial works very differently from residential, but you still must be a licensed broker in order to receive any sort of compensation from us. So if a person's unlicensed and they come in and represent, one, they're not getting paid from us. Two, that's not necessary if it's residential. So if you ever have a question, just call us directly. All of our information is on our website, all of our email addresses and our pictures and our names. So we've had people pose as land bank employees. If anyone works for the land bank, go to our website, go to our staff page. Every staffer is listed and their picture is there. So you know the name and what we look like. So if that's not the person, that person does not work for the land bank.
So Rob, you have these different companies representing your commercial properties. Do you have any companies representing, individual properties,
No.
No.
So we self-represent for the residential.
Okay.
On staff, we have 3 residential brokers that are our staff members. So we hold their license. So for the residential, we don't have a residential broker. We, the land bank, are self-listing our properties. Okay. The only properties that we list on MLS that are residential are the home buyer houses, where you can then use your broker to come and to buy that house. Otherwise, our houses are only listed on our website. Okay. So where we use a broker, you'll see those properties listed on our website, but they'll also be listed on MLS. And for the commercial, they'll be listed in CoStar or LoopNet. But for residential, that's not for the home buyers, that's not for owner occupants, that's only listed on our website. And we self broker.
Okay. All right. This has been enlightening, informative, and all of those good things. I don't see any other questions in the chat here. So if there are, you need to put them in there real quick. We've got about 9 minutes to wrap up here. Is there anything else that you could share to kind of help? You know, the land bank is such an important entity in helping to clean up neighborhoods, and I'm just thrilled, you know, when Bridget told me that, you know, they were going to roll out a land bank in Cook County, because I really worked hard on that bill in Springfield, and quite frankly, I got it passed in the House, and when it went over to the Senate, oh my goodness, it was a big brouhaha. But
Right.
I mean, it may not be perfect, and nothing is, but it is returning some properties back to the tax rolls and improving neighborhoods. And
Right.
I'm really happy with the work that you've done, you know, with the land bank. And we were really, you know, I don't know who the first person was. See, 1 year, but whoever that was, it doesn't matter. The fact that you've been here with us for the past 6 years is commendable. And I'd like to thank you as somebody who pays attention to these kinds of things. So if there's no other questions, okay, last call.
If I could say some parting words,
Sure.
Clerk Yarbrough.
Sure.
So one of the things that we do with the land bank, and it's not perfect, and the questions here are good questions, because there's an ongoing need to make sure that we're reaching out and sharing what we're doing with people. But the one distinguishing factor between our land bank and other land banks in the country is that we are really making a concerted effort to make our properties available to everyday citizens to purchase. The easy thing in the world would be for us to take these properties and to find, you know, the Sterling Bays of the world or the Relateds, and make a deal and sell them 100 properties or 200 properties. And these properties will come up and leave out, and no one would ever hear about them, right? But what we've done is that we try to be as transparent as possible, put these on our website, make sure that we have an engagement process with people, make sure we do these sort of things so that we can have people come in. Sometimes it may be just the one property they buy, right? But they had access to it. And the access is the key thing. When we talk about real estate, there are 3 things that Black people have been missing when we talk about how do we build wealth through real estate. We've been missing access to the information, missing access to capital, and we've been missing access to the inventory, right? And the inventory piece is the big piece, because even if you have the money and if you know how to work it, if the inventory is not available to you, and ask people that have been buying real estate as of late, a property will come up and go off market and you never see it. If you don't have access to it, you don't even have the ability to work it. And so what we're really trying to do is increase that access. So not perfect, and we're always working to make it better. But that's the bet that we've made on the neighborhoods, that if we make it available to everyone, that people will step up and buy these properties and be able to rebuild their own neighborhood. So we don't need subsidies, we don't need grants, we don't need extra work. All we need is access to this property. Yeah. And so, you know, 6 years later, 2,600 properties later, that thesis has been validated. And as we continue on, when I started, we didn't have a single house that had been rehabbed through the land bank. By November of this year, the land bank's going to celebrate its 1,000th house to be rehabbed. That's an incredible feat to start from nothing to there.
Yeah, so that's great.
Those are my parting words.
That's great. Don wants to know, and I guess he's talking about vacant land. If we purchase off the land bank, does a structure have to be built upon it?
It depends. When you put in the application for the vacant land, tell us what you're going to do. There's been some vacant land in which it's been a community garden. It's been some vacant land where it's been used for stormwater management. There's a specific plan. So even if it's going to be a garden, what does that garden look like, and how are you going to build it, and how long is it going to take you? And give us a budget for that garden. because we're expecting a garden. And if in a year it's just dirt, we're going to take that property back. So you don't have to necessarily build a structure on it, but whatever you're going to build, it has to be specific in a plan, and we're going to hold you accountable to that.
Great. Final thing for me. You gave away a home in Maywood, a beautiful home on Pepper's Path. How are they doing?
She's doing well. You know, she was our youngest winner at the time. She was 9 months pregnant, had the baby the week after we gave her the house. Wow. So, you know, we have a 5-year sort of period. I think she's in year 3 of that. And so last I spoke to her, she was doing well. She had lost her job during the pandemic, but she didn't have a mortgage. And so she was able to weather that until she found another job. But she's back on track now, and she's working, and she's doing well. She has moved her family into the house with her because she was a single mom. Now her mother and father live with her. Mm-hmm. And so that's it. It's an opportunity for everyone to be able to build wealth, right? Because during this time of COVID, where people were losing jobs, she had one less thing to worry about, which is a mortgage. And she was able to weather that storm. So she's doing very well.
So that's a great success story. And listen, thank you so much. I wish you all the best in wherever you land, but take that vacation and enjoy it.
I will.
And by the way, you said that the new person has been identified?
Yeah, so it was in Cranes today. Her name is Eleanor Gorski.
Okay.
And so she has been named as my successor. She will start in August.
Okay, I'll have to acquaint myself with Miss Gorski because we'll be doing this again.
There you
go.
So
with that, I'm going to sign off. And Rob, again, thank you so very, very much. We've appreciated you being with us for this 6 years and all the good work you've gotten done. Enjoy your vacation. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. And to the audience, thank you so much for joining us this evening. This is housing is near and dear to my heart. As I mentioned, housing is foundational. And I think Rob brought up a good point about, how do we transfer wealth? One way we can transfer wealth and generational wealth is through property. The property is here forever. We're not, but we can pass it forward. So with that, good night. Have a good evening. Thanks.